So I thought what we can do today, which can make it meaningful, is we'll start with, of course, some motivation and quiet moments. And then I'll try and be skillful in just presenting a few remembrances of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Kyabje Lama Zopa Rinpoche, because I've had association with him since 1979. So that's, I tried to work it out. It's about 44 years. So yeah, it's been quite a long association, 2/3 of my life. And then we will reflect on some of his teachings on Bodhicitta. We've been advised by Khadro-la, a very wonderful, amazing lady practitioner who's very close to the Lamas, had been very close to Rinpoche. Her advice is at this time, this is a very powerful time. You see, when a Lama passes away, or when your Guru passes away, it's a very powerful time to pray and to make aspirations and, of course, to purify the many mistakes one may have made in terms of one's relationship with the Guru and the Guru devotion and so forth. And it's a very, and she, that's in general. But she, Khadro-la specifically said, very important to meditate on at least 3 things, I gather. 1, bodhicitta, the great compassion, bodhicitta. Then impermanence. And then the 3rd thing would be, of course, especially relates to people who were students of Rinpoche, but it could refer to anyone who has respect for him, is to make strong prayers for his rebirth and quick recognition, and for that recognized being to be most beneficial for living beings. So that is what we will reflect on a little bit today. Okay, so yeah, right. So let's start with, as usual, with motivation. This is something Lama Zopa Rinpoche would always emphasize so much. One of the things one misses nowadays. In the early days, when we would have a meal with Rinpoche, that was in itself an amazing thing. But we would never expect to have a hot meal with Rinpoche, because it could arrive hot, but then Rinpoche would engage in 15, 20 minutes of prayers, at least sometimes, before eating, motivating in a most extraordinary way. So by the time the food reached the mouth, it would be tepid or cold, but no matter, because yeah, somehow it was just such a fullness involved in the whole situation of praying and dedicating with Rinpoche. His extraordinary, yeah, just extraordinary power, really, a spiritual power, but very loving, friendly, but somehow so pure. So doing that, the disappointment of eating cold food was completely outweighed by the fact that you felt that you had engaged in something very wholesome and wonderful, which is what we had. So Rinpoche, of course, always emphasizes motivation, whether you're eating or doing a practice or anything. So let's motivate. And I suppose today we could motivate in the sense that I would say all of us are very fortunate in that we have met the teachings. But not only that, you see, we've met teachers like Lama Zopa Rinpoche who can, it's not just a question of being able to unlock the teachings in an academic way or understanding the meaning of the words or the etymologies and so on and so forth. That, of course. But Rinpoche was somebody who embodied the teachings in a most extraordinary way. You know, it's just got a message from my brother, and he'd had a few interactions with Rinpoche many years ago in Bodh Gaya. And, you know, he also got that sense, this is a really wonderful, special, very sincere, loving human being. So here we're going to try to emulate that, I suppose. Now that the teacher is gone, of course, as we I'm now getting into the main body of the session, which But anyway, it can be part of the motivation. You see, the guru obviously is not just a physical guru, because if it's the physical guru, then it's gone, then the guru is gone. But that's nonsense. I would say that for me, and I'm sure for many people, the guru is even stronger now, because we realize we have to keep the guru intact within us. The physical guru who would sometimes pass through Delhi or Bodh Gaya or whatever is gone. That physical form is gone. However sad we may be at that. And by the way, there is absolutely no point in being sad about, Rinpoche not being okay. Rinpoche is fine. I can assure you that a being like that has no problem with death and rebirth, okay? So don't worry about Rinpoche's passage. It seems right now he's still in meditation, which again, something people might find strange, because clinically he is dead. Clinically, according to modern medicine, he is dead, but maybe still in a meditative state, utilizing the very, very subtle consciousness, which is what great yogis can do and do regularly. So anyway, let's motivate that we are never separated, that by having this session together, we create the causes to never be separated from authentic teachers. And that's important nowadays, isn't it? Because there's a lot of inauthentic people, unqualified people who are pretending to be qualified. The only good thing I can say, for example, about myself is that I know I'm unqualified, but I admit I'm unqualified. I'm not pretending to be a realized yogi or someone like that, or a realized person at all. People who know me better know that I'm a complete charlatan in many ways. Anyway, to never be separated from authentic teachers who bring it alive, who understand it, who have great scholastic knowledge, but more important than that, they've experienced the teaching so deeply, and their whole life, you see, they just haven't experienced it deeply. Their whole life is about sharing that with others, ripening our minds so that we can become like that, so that we can become fully awakened. A total dedication to, and this I have seen with my own eyes, this total dedication to to others, totally, day and night. I once had later this story, although the whole session will be a kind of a motivation for us to, I hope, pray that we keep meeting Rinpoche and other great beings in our future. So we can pray like that. We can motivate that this samsara, this cyclic process, which is the continuity of the contaminated 5 aggregates fueled by delusion and karma, right? That's a very sophisticated, snobbish way of saying our body and mind, our polluted body and mind, they are polluted by delusions and karmic action, even though, of course, deep down we are pure. We have the Buddha nature. But anyway, right now we are roiling and sinking and flailing and crying out in samsara, one way or another. We might be having a wonderful time right now, but we certainly know that there can be clouds coming in our life and when we feel miserable for one reason or another. So we're in samsara. We've been in this situation, according to the teachings, since beginningless time, time without beginning, before the Big Bang, many Big Bangs, beginningless Big Bangs, etc. And now we have a chance to be free because we have just come across these incredible teachings, which are not available in this world or any world system all the time. There are periods when these teachings are not around. Who knows what the situation will be in 10 years, 20, 50, 100 years, or when the sun finishes doing what it does, Who knows where we'll be and whether there'll be teachings available or not. So now we have this opportune boat like human body, as they say, we would be foolish to waste this opportunity. So let's motivate that we understand our good fortune and quickly arouse the mind of Bodhicitta, which Lama Yeshe used to praise so much. I have the beings behind me, right? I have His Holiness and I have Rinpoche here and Lama Yeshe there. And you see, they emphasize so much the Bodhicitta, the great compassion, you know, because that's something I think so many of us can feel a connection with quite easily. The teachings on wisdom, on emptiness, they can be a little dry and difficult, and somehow we can feel a little unconnected with them sometimes, some of us. But with compassion, even if we might feel, you know, undervalued or impoverished due to blah, 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 whatever, still compassion does, I think, make some sense for most of us. Love and compassion make sense, right? We can get our head around that and even our heart. So, yeah, I would say compassion, so much emphasized by Lama Yeshe in his last few teachings before he passed away in 1984. Yeah. So let's motivate with the great compassion, thinking how fortunate I am, but the myriad beings of samsara, they are, you know, they are crying, they are upset, they are suffering, they are without refuge, they are without, they are bereft of hope, many of them, bereft of helper, bereft of loving kindness. Many are lacking food and drink, very basics. Many are fighting and killing each other. Whereas the human heart does not want that, does it? You know? Human heart doesn't want actually to be killing and you know, torturing each other. It doesn't want that. So let's motivate that this session doesn't stay on some kind of just sort of academic or intellectual level, that we can feel that kindness bubbling up within us, you know. Rinpoche used to give many teachings at Kopan in the early days, I'm talking 30 plus years ago. And his sessions, before he would give especially tantric empowerments, he would spend a lot of time emphasizing bodhicitta. They were just extraordinary. It was just, you would be transported to another realm. The way he spoke about compassion, bodhicitta. And then you knew that this being was a total embodiment of great compassion, bodhicitta. No doubt, somehow. So, remembering the sufferings of the beings who have been so kind to us, are being kind to us, please generate this sense of how wonderful it would be if I could help them. You know? I must attain the state of a fully awakened person so that I can help them properly, and not in a haphazard fashion like now, often making gross mistakes which harm them rather than help them. So may I be able to be a valid guide through depth of understanding, compassion. Please think about this. Think about some people you know who may be suffering a lot right now. There are plenty of people whom we know who are suffering physically, suffering mentally. Yeah. Remember them. This is, remember, this is the best way to honor Lama Zopa Rinpoche. This is one of his heart teachings, you know, and we'll be quoting from him later in the session, from his booklet on Bodhisattva attitude. and think, if sometimes, don't we? We think, we feel, well, somebody else will do the job. Someone else will do it, Sometimes we feel that way about garbage, don't we? Someone else will pick it up. But here, you see, who else is going to help the sentient beings? The people who are suffering. Who am I going to leave that to? You see, that's, I guess, bodhisattvas think that way. Who else is going to do it? I must do it. We must do it. So in that sense, the bodhisattva has kind of a big ego in that sense. A big sort of enlightened ego. I'm going to help. I'm going to help others. I myself will enable beings to be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. Remember the Mahayana equanimity, immeasurable compassion. I myself will do. But yeah, Gurus, Bodhisattvas bless me to be able to do this. So let's just sit quietly also now. You can just reflect or motivate or watch the breath, whatever you need to do for say 5 minutes, and then we'll carry on with the session, okay? Okay, so we'll start with a quotation from Rinpoche. Then I'll just share a few reminiscences and then ask people here, because some people here have had a lot of probably interaction with Rinpoche. I haven't yet got a sense of everyone who's here, but yeah, there'll be people here who have had interactions with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and they can share whatever they like. Yeah. This is from a wonderful booklet that was put together called Bodhisattva Attitude. Bodhisattva Attitude. There's a large book as well. This is kind of a distillation. In short, Rinpoche, in his inimitable way, says things very clearly and in a very challenging way, you could say. He doesn't water things down. He never really watered things down, in the sense he didn't try to make things more palatable necessarily. You got a straight, you got a straight scotch on the rocks. There's not too much water there, So he says, bodhisattvas totally dedicate their lives, day and night, to be used by other sentient beings for their happiness. This is what the bodhisattva looks for and wishes for all the time. Our motivation should be the same. He doesn't say, oh, this is what bodhisattvas do. That's in the texts, and then leave it. No, this is what we have to do. Okay. So just to quote a little bit from this booklet, it's been put together very nicely by Venerable Sarah Thresher, whom some of you may know. Rinpoche particularly emphasizes the need for us to have a very clear and direct perception, direction, and purpose for our life. Okay, so no fuzzy-wuzzy, oh, what's the purpose of my life? Maybe it's this, maybe it's that, haven't yet found my purpose. Well, for Rinpoche, purpose of life is very clear. Purpose of life is to bring temporary and ultimate happiness to all sentient beings. But that's it. That's our job, Anything less than that, sorry, you don't qualify. So enlightenment depends on first generating this compassion, bodhicitta, right? Training our mind in the bodhisattva attitude enables us to do that. So in Rinpoche, now quoting here from Rinpoche, his teaching, probably very slightly edited because, Rinpoche doesn't speak Oxford or Cambridge English, never did, and neither did Lama Yeshe. So we need, their works are edited, but I can tell you that it preserves the meaning. If what you want is to liberate sentient beings from the oceans of samsaric suffering and enlighten them, then you need to achieve enlightenment. If you want to achieve enlightenment, you need to practice bodhicitta. The bodhisattva's attitude is always, day and night, to totally dedicate their lives to be used by other sentient beings for their happiness. This is what they're seeking and wishing for all the time. You have to know that. If you feel like that, then there's the opportunity to gradually become closer and closer to this mind of bodhicitta and have the realization. So then, if you are able to change your mind into an attitude wishing to be, capital letters, used by others for their happiness, this is exactly, capital letters, what the bodhisattva's attitude is. So this really hurts us. This hurts the self-cherishing attitude. It hurts me. I don't want to be used by others, Oh yeah, I want to help others in the way that I want to help them, but used by others, Do I want to work for them and, not get paid enough or not be thanked enough? Or, do I want to be used? Very difficult, very difficult. But he's saying this is exactly what the bodhisattva's attitude is. They want to be used by other people. Of course, we've had many discussions on this in sessions. Does that mean, allowing people to abuse you, blah, blah, blah? Of course not. but it means having that attitude where you really want to sacrifice your time and energy for others, and you don't do it in a way where you feel that others are going to feel beholden to you. You don't have to say, well, oh, look what I'm doing for you, you know. So, not like that, just totally spontaneously and joyfully working for others. Then Rinpoche says, and he's heard a lot of things, I can tell you, wow, I can tell you some things. I won't tell you some of those things, actually, the kind of people Rinpoche's had to deal with over the years. I mean, not just people like me, but people who even behave worse than me, you know, unbelievable. Anyway, he says, I often hear people say, oh, these people are just using me. Even sometimes at meetings in our centers, I hear this. That is because they're not practicing bodhicitta. Once I wrote a letter to a center saying, bodhisattvas want to be used by sentient beings. That's what the bodhisattva's attitude is. They actually accept it. The worldly mind thinks that being used by others is bad. It's the worst thing. But the bodhisattvas are most happy to accept this. Their happiest practice is to be used by sentient beings. It's what they're always looking for. So clearly, then Venerable Sarah comments that this is a total and radical change from our normal way of thinking, right? Our normal self-cherishing negative emotional thoughts. And cultivating that kind of mind obviously requires a lot of effort. In some ways, these verses are like the famous prayer attributed to Saint Francis. And like that prayer, they're meant not only to be recited, but to be contemplated upon and lived. So Rinpoche's advice was always to reflect on the meaning of verses like this in the morning, to reflect on bodhicitta in the morning, and then try to live that throughout the day, using verses from, say, Shantideva and other texts as a guide to how to navigate the day. And then one more quote. In the West, and now of course in India too, everywhere, millions of people suffer from depression. But if you dedicate your life in the morning to numberless sentient beings, there's unbelievable joy and happiness the whole day. Cherishing the I opens the door to all suffering, while cherishing others opens the door to all happiness. So when you live your life every day for others, the door to depression, relationship problems, and all these things is closed. And instead, there's incredible joy and excitement. So what if we haven't achieved this yet? Well, of course we haven't. It's okay. But we can be inspired by the fact that this may be possible. Some people do live like this, can live like this, have lived like this. So maybe, we should give it a try, because the way we're living now isn't that satisfactory for many of us. Others are a burden, whether some friends or family or people at work, whatever. People can be a burden, right? We just want to do our own thing, But if we had this kind of attitude, I guess it wouldn't be such a burden. Rinpoche is saying there'd be incredible joy and excitement. Well, I must say I never saw Rinpoche depressed. He would often be sad at things, but even then, there would often be very soon some kind of explosion of laughter and joy, because he was practicing bodhicitta. So he's not cherishing himself, not worrying about himself at all. In fact, Rinpoche is someone who had a very strict regime. He wouldn't lie down unless once or twice, maybe when he was extremely sick, he might have had to. But otherwise, he had taken some ascetic vows. He never lay down. He would sit at night meditating, going into some kind of samadhi. He would not lie down, not sleep in any ordinary way. He would never ask for anything in terms of food or drink. He would never ask for water or this or that. It had to be offered to him. He would not ask for anything for himself. And of course, the mosquito net that was offered to him famously in one some, I think, pilgrimage place, or either at Kapan, where he took off the mosquito net, rolled up his shirt so the mosquitoes could have a good evening meal. He was like that. He was someone who dedicated his life, his body, to others. We once went to a healer, I remember. Several of us went to a healer in Bauda. This is down the road from Kapan, where the famous huge stupa is, where, we have Tia here. Tia is somewhere near that great stupa. So we went to this healing lady, this Tibetan lady who healed through doing extraordinary things. She would suck things out of your body, you know, black stuff, and spit it out and do all kinds of weird healing things, you know. So we told her, you know, oh yeah, we're students of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And she put her hands together and, you know, it's kind of saying, wow, you know, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you people have no idea how much pain he goes through every day in his body. But, you know, you wouldn't know because he never complains. But he has a lot of pain in his body because he's taking on so much suffering of other people onto himself. But it was amazing hearing it from this Tibetan woman who was, and she said, please, if Rinpoche needs, please bring him so I can help, you know, I can help him. But you know, she said like that, you know, your Lama Zopa Rinpoche has so much pain and problems in his body, but he doesn't care. He doesn't care for himself. You know? That was very moving to hear that. Anyway, so now he's saying, all sentient beings have been wish-fulfilling and kind to you since beginningless rebirths. Now you become wish-fulfilling for them. That's very amazing, actually, if we, you know, if one were to take a phrase like that and reflect on it again and again, how beings have been wish-fulfilling for us, helping us. We've done this meditation occasionally, haven't we? But somehow, there may be times when it's more profound to do it, and now is the time, in these few days and weeks after Rinpoche's passing. It's very, very important and powerful to do these kind of meditations, it is said, and dedicated to the welfare of beings, as well as to the quick and unmistaken reincarnation of the Lama to come and guide us again, you know. So you see, those of you who are still young, 30, 40 or something, then you might have the good fortune to receive teachings from the next reincarnation of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Hopefully the world will still be around and not too much, not total devastation from war and climate change and all the rest of it. So you can receive teachings from Lama Zopa Rinpoche, whatever the name will be in the future. So anyway, so I first met Rinpoche in 1979. He was teaching in the chapel of an old Gothic style building in the north of England called Manjushri Institute, which is where I had first studied and taken refuge a couple of years earlier. So Rinpoche and Lama came there in the summer of 1979 to a place which was usually, the attitude in that place was that if it was a sunny day and you met a local and you said, nice weather, isn't it? They would reply, it won't last. That was their reply, it won't last. You know, the good weather won't last. It rained a lot. Anyway, Rinpoche and Lama came and we had 10, 11 days of total sunshine, total clear skies for 10, 11 days. It was amazing. I think August 1979. And it was amazing. So anyway, Rinpoche was teaching. I remember the first thing he taught about was the 5 degenerations of this age, which is amazing because it puts the whole age in perspective, that according to the teachings, and it's also there in Hindu teachings to some extent, this is an era of degeneration of lifespan, of the mind, of everything. Everything is in a state of degeneration and going downhill, not going uphill. It's going down. So people's minds are degenerate. You know, you can see that on the media, can't you? How people's minds are degenerate, what we are engaging in, and wars and pollution and degeneration of climate. Everything is degenerating. And so my memories of that were, Rinpoche, very thin in those days, very thin, not like what he looks like, what he looked like while he was alive yesterday. Think of it, he was alive yesterday. So he put on some weight, but in the early days he was thin, with big eyes, and just a meditator. He was so ascetic, he hardly ate anything. And Lama Yeshe had to tell him to eat, you know. You'd say, Zopa, eat. He would scold him because although Rinpoche was higher level in that sense, that he regarded Lama Yeshe as his guru. So Lama could tell him what to do. So anyway, Rinpoche was like this being from outer space, quite frankly. Thin, big eyes, is scary. I was a bit scared of him. But he also had this great sense of humor. And so there he was teaching on that and on the 8 verses of thought transformation. That was the first teaching I heard from him. 8 verses of thought transformation. Of course, he started with the last verse on emptiness. Started with that verse after he'd spoken about degeneration. Anyway, so that was my first introduction to Rinpoche. And then next year also at Kopan Monastery in Nepal, where he gave mind-blowing teachings, mainly on hell, karma, suffering. That was Rinpoche's speciality. That was his blessing to us, to wake us up from thinking that samsara was maybe okay. I'd already told you once about the bird singing outside, and we're thinking, well, now lovely to hear the bird song, you know, and Rinpoche will say things like, oh, you hear that bird outside? Sound of suffering. So you go, you know, and he would forget to, give us pee-pee breaks in the middle. So we would be there clutching our, bladders. But somehow at the end of the day, very thankful for Rinpoche for putting us through that. And in the evenings, we were lucky those days. We were very lucky. Lama Yeshe was there, so he would cheer us up in the evenings. But Rinpoche's teachings were certainly something unusual and would focus on those unpalatable aspects of samsara. And of course, he would also give teachings on bodhicitta and other things, but I don't remember much on that course, that Kopan course in 1980. And then I asked him what to do. He said, go back to England and study and anyway. So throughout my life, I've taken advice from Lama Zopa Rinpoche. The reason I'm sitting here is because of Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And his advice is to put a lot of energy into education, children. He's very, very enthusiastic about starting Buddhist school in Bodh Gaya and in Kushinagar. And of course, also other kinds of schools that would be appropriate for people, because not everyone perhaps wants to go to a Buddhist school. But Rinpoche's thing was that, Buddhist psychology is the deepest psychology. And Buddhist philosophy has the greatest ability to actually benefit sentient beings and liberate us. So he always wanted children at some point to have access to Buddhist psychology, Buddhist philosophy. And so when I said to him once in Bodh Gaya, Rinpoche, it's going to be very hard to start a Buddhist school in Bodh Gaya, because I was thinking of all of the, other factors involved. He almost is like he was jumping in his chair with kind of excitement and energy, saying, that's why we have to have it. That's why we have to have that kind of school, because it's difficult. It's difficult because it's something very worthwhile, and worthwhile things are hard to do, right? So that's why you have to do it. So there I was kind of, okay. And then another time, puja, in the middle of puja, Rinpoche will often stop and start teaching, right? So then at one teaching, he was talking about education in Bodh Gaya and saying, oh, we need a school in every village. School in every village. So, he was trying to encourage us to do what. So I just feel now, now that Rinpoche has passed away, I just feel more than ever we have to do what Rinpoche wanted. That's our way. That's the way to please the Lama and to fulfill his wishes and to fulfill the needs of sentient beings, right? We need good human beings to be in responsible positions in the future, don't we, in this country and throughout the world. We don't want people who are happy in cutting down gigantic rainforests and so on and so forth. We need people who are reared on, Shantideva and things like that, and understanding their minds. And as Rinpoche would often say, courage, forgiveness, apologizing, kindness. These are some of the most important things to begin with, to teach children. And I would always think, these things, what children, we adults need it, right? Forgiveness, apologizing when we make mistakes and hurt people, courage, kindness, wow, we need those things, Anyway, we have to teach the children those things. That was Rinpoche's advice. And one of the teachings he gave, which I had the good fortune to be translating into Hindi, and very embarrassing actually, because we were in front of the children and the parents at the school here. And what does Rinpoche say? Pretty much the first sentence: purpose of education is not to get a job. The purpose of education is to benefit sentient beings and be like a sun, like sunshine for sentient beings. I was thinking, oh man, these parents, most of them are putting their child in this school because they want them to get a good job, for heaven's sake. This is Bihar, get a good job, make some money, have a secure life. And it's not as though Rinpoche doesn't understand that. He wasn't. He wasn't. It's not like he was unaware of that. But he was emphasizing this other factor. Just being educated to get a job, that's not the purpose of education. Not the main purpose. So, that's what the kind of thing that Rinpoche would say in front of anyone, he would say it outright in front of everyone. Yeah. So it was a great privilege. I had to translate for him several times in Hindi for the children here and for the neo-Buddhists, so-called, in Nasik, central India, not far from Mumbai. One time Rinpoche taught in the Bihar, right next to Nasik railway station, and I translated for him. That was an amazing experience. He gave extensive teachings there. Yeah, that was amazing. That was the year there was the terrorist attack in Mumbai. And we happened to arrive in Mumbai with Rinpoche just after the terrorist attack started. Talk about timing. We'd been to the Ajanta Ellora caves, coming back by car, and every few kilometers we would stop because there would be a dead dog on the road, hit by traffic. So Rinpoche would have us stop the taxi. He would get out, do prayers for the dog. Just this mess on the road. Rinpoche would always stop for dead dogs and pray, and like that. So there was always that sense of impermanence with Rinpoche. He would always be reminding us one way or another of death and impermanence. And then when we arrive in Mumbai, there, we hear about shootings and stuff. And so then we watched television and did prayers according to Rinpoche's instructions as the attack kept on going. There's many things I could say about Rinpoche, but maybe I'll write something down later or save something for a possible later session. But what to say? He touched millions of lives, probably. Well, definitely, especially the beings we can't see, because he had access to beings that we can't see. And given the level of mind he was at, according to the teachings, he could have manifested in thousands and thousands of forms in different realms. So what this being that we call Lama Zopa Rinpoche was and is doing right now, it would be mind-blowing for us. We might faint if we were told what was happening, what he was able to do and is doing right now. But anyway, to just keep it to the conventional level, he has helped so many people. And I've seen that with my own eyes. And I'm sure some of you have. So anyway, I'll stop now with this blah, blah. Anybody want to share their experience with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, with a teaching or a meeting with him, or whatever? It doesn't have to be, yeah, he had an infectious laughter. Binu Sharma sharing that with a very innocent and childlike quality, absolutely. Very, very infectious laughter. Lavina says, I don't know why I feel so much sadness and pain with his passing. I didn't know him except read an excerpt on the power of compassion. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Lavina. Nilashi, okay. Nilashi just saying she has to go somewhere. Gabi saying he was the actual Buddha. Well, yeah, that's an interesting thing to say, and I think very important in terms of the way we look at the Guru in Mahayana and Vajrayana. When we read about the qualities of the Buddha, and then you look at certain beings, and you say, well, what's the difference? Of course, the difference we think is that the Buddha is, like we see in the Tankas, has beautiful body. When we visualize them, they are bodies of light, as is appropriate. But when we see the living Guru, then they can be very decrepit. Rinpoche had a stroke or manifested a stroke, so he has to be helped to walk, uses a stick, he coughs, etc. So it's hard sometimes we forget that this could be a living, awakened being, a Buddha. But all we see is the ordinary body. But because we're not yet familiar with the, what one might say, with the subtle body, although many of us may have read about it, but we're not really familiar in terms of experience with the subtle body, or the inner, more hidden aspect of a human being. Therefore, we don't really understand fully what the fully qualified Lama is, So anyway, yeah, Gabi says he's a Buddha. That's also, of course, a very good way of relating to somebody, because then you receive that kind of inspiration of the Buddha. If we keep on seeing people's mistakes, and that doesn't just apply to our Guru, doesn't it? If we keep on seeing mistakes in people, then it's going to be unbearable being around those people, right? If all we see is mistakes. And I have experience of that. I would see mistakes in so many people, and it just makes one so annoyed and upset. So what's the point? Better to see purity, right? Better to focus on the pure aspect, or imagine that others are purer in some way, without being stupid about it. But anyway, yeah, Buddha. So that's, of course, a very basic, very deep and powerful teaching in the Vajrayana, especially, to see the Guru as the Buddha. And there are books on it, you can read about it. Although Dalai Lama, of course, says be careful about that one, because a false Guru could get you to, see them as the Buddha while they're exploiting you or abusing you. So we have to be very careful about seeing others as the Buddha. But in general, it's great, If I go around seeing people as unhappy and sick, then that helps me develop compassion. If I go around thinking, wow, everybody has Buddha nature according to the teachings, and some of them may actually be Buddhas and bodhisattvas. So this helps, don't you think, develop a very positive attitude towards others, rather than just a negative one that, they're in my way, there are too many of them, and they haven't had a bath today, and they smell, or, whatever we may be thinking about other people. If we see the positive aspect, that could be really good. Yeah. Yes. Gabi, yeah, hello. I've seen you. Yes, somewhere. I keep on forgetting where I've seen people. So many familiar faces here. Shavi here, thank you. Tara, I don't know which Tara. Several Taras. 21 Taras at least, but I don't know which Tara is here. Vivekji, Seema. Seema's iPhone, but that doesn't look like Seema. That looks like a gentleman. Very welcome to you, sir. Subhashini Subramaniam, I don't know. Yash, yeah, that's familiar. Isa, I don't know. Isa. Anyway, anybody else have something to share? Most welcome. Ashit, welcome. Tara Sandra. Oh, Tara Sandra, the yoga teacher. Yeah. I taught you some Hindi. Oh, good. Very good. Thank you, Tara. Yeah, it's been a big shock to some of the Sangha. There's people been in tears here today. It's been very hard for people like Adriana, who's been running the leprosy project in Bodh Gaya since the late 80s. Who started that just after we started Root Institute. So she's been here a long time, an Italian lady who's 80 years old now. Incredible courage working here so many years. She's been profoundly affected, poor dear. Yeah, many students worldwide will be deeply, deeply upset today. Anybody else want to share? Anybody here met Lama Zopa Rinpoche recently and want to share? Thanks, Tara. Yeah, I felt we were having a session anyway, so I think it was an opportunity to speak about Rinpoche. I always have a very skeptical, science-fueled cynicism towards karma, etc. But one thing, I think you still have something to say, isn't it? I met Rinpoche and you 40 years ago? 40 years ago, really. My life turned totally to Dharma, and today your words are so warming up, lifting up. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, they will be warming also because it's 40 degrees here in Bodh Gaya. It's really something. We've had a lot of heat here. I think it's a bit cooler in Delhi. Yeah, something. About Rinpoche, that he always guessed on your mind and answer exactly the doubt lurking in your mind. Yeah. Yeah, he was totally clairvoyant. That's the other thing. He could read minds very easily, which is a minor power according to these great beings. It's nothing. It's just something by the way that you get with high levels of meditation. He wouldn't have considered that. Well, it's important. It can be so useful knowing other people's minds, isn't it? And in helping them can be very useful. But of course, he never told people he had clairvoyance, but you could tell by the things he said to you that he knew exactly what you'd been up to and what you needed. It was so clear. Once I'd been reading something that was inappropriate, and I was reading it on my own in my room. A few months later, Rinpoche mentioned this to me at the stupa in Bodh Gaya. How the hell does Rinpoche know that I'd been reading that book? Well, if you have clairvoyance, you have clairvoyance. And you don't have to be in the next room to know what someone is reading. You can pick it up later, you know. So yeah, that's very useful power for someone with good intentions. Very dangerous if that person has bad intentions, of course. Yeah, Rinpoche had all these qualities that are necessary for a great bodhisattva to have, to be able to benefit others appropriately. Yeah. So there we are. Where are we? Where are we? 8 o'clock, yeah. It's too late to go to the stupa today. I'll go early morning. That will be good. Some people have gone to the main temple to do prayers, which is, of course, a very good place to go. Yeah, Rinpoche always, yeah, I must tell you one thing. In the early days, there was no proper fencing at the main temple in Bodh Gaya, okay? So I would take Rinpoche on my little scooter. Or no, it wasn't even a scooter. What are those things that moped? It was a moped. It wasn't even a fully qualified scooter. I would take Rinpoche to the stupa on the moped, and we would clamber over the wall, you know, where there was a gap on the west side. On the west side, where now they have the exit. That's the northwest corner. We would climb over on the main part of the west wall and just go inside, you know. No main entrance, no security, nothing. No mobiles, of course, thank God, in those days, you know, so you just go in there. And that was great, you know. It was like you had Rinpoche to yourself and you kind of taking the guru to the temple and sneaking in. You felt, and you didn't feel you were sneaking in because Rinpoche always had something beneficial to do in the stupa. But yeah, we had some great sessions with Rinpoche in there, several of us, and he loved to go on the central circumambulation. The upper one was longer, but guess what? The central one and the shorter one was very short, too short, the one right next to the main temple. But the circular, the middle circumambulation, you had to go up and down steps. It was harder. So of course, Rinpoche made us go on that one, always. Until recently, when he wasn't well, we would always go on the middle Kora or circumambulation route, because you had to go up, you had to go down, it was harder. So Rinpoche believed in hard work, effort. He said, if you go on pilgrimage and you have suffering, it's fantastic. Blessed place to have suffering is pilgrimage. Why do you want to have it easy, More suffering, the more purification. Good. So things like that. We would spend many sessions at the main stupa. And then what was amazing was when in 2011, I was working in Mumbai for a while, and then we heard Rinpoche had this paralysis, this stroke. But it's like, it never seemed to bother him. There was never any bother from his side. Yeah, his speech became slurred for a while. Couldn't use his hand, his right hand. But actually later, his speech became more powerful. And he lost the coughing that he always used to have, a very kind of irritating cough that Rinpoche had, which came up again and again while he was teaching, which drove some people nuts, actually. That cough stopped completely after his stroke. His voice became very powerful. And there was never a hint that it had affected him in any way, his mind. And absolutely no fear connected with it. Most people would be afraid if they had a stroke, right? And part of you becomes paralyzed for a while. Never a problem for Rinpoche. So, just another sign that he was not someone who identified so much with his body. His mind was obviously somewhere else. He always, while interacting with him, I would have a follow-up question in my mind while he's answering, and he would take it up in his reply. Yeah. Sometimes he would bring up the exact same example or scenario that would be on my mind, which was very surprising. Yeah. So like that, yes. Yeah, complete clairvoyance.
Question.
Yeah.
What did you mean by manifesting a stroke you mentioned earlier?
Yes, someone might pick on that. So we have strokes, we have problems, and we just have it. We have no control. It's said that with holy beings, they can take on the suffering of others. So then, therefore, they manifest that illness because it's a kind of artificial illness. It's built up with the power they have of taking on other people's suffering. So then it manifests as suffering in their own body or a problem in their body. But of course, a problem is a label. It's not a problem for Rinpoche. It's not a problem. It's not a problem for Rinpoche that he's died this morning, so-called, although he's still in meditation. It's not a problem for Rinpoche. It's a problem for us. It's not a problem for Rinpoche. So someone at that level, nothing is a problem, actually. Everything is a kind of a manifestation. We have problems. Holy beings don't have problems. They have challenges. Of course, they have work to do. So that kind of idea that, for example, the 16th Karmapa, it said when he died in a Chicago hospital in 1981. He was very sick with cancer, and his body was riddled with cancer, but he blew the minds of the staff there because, they thought he was dying, but suddenly he'd pick up, be totally joyful and happy, receive his students, not have anything, he wouldn't complain at all about what he was going through. He was just totally concerned with his students' welfare. So then one asked, why does a holy being like the 16th Karmapa have cancer, so much cancer? Now, it's obvious from the way he's behaving that it's not a problem for him. It's not a problem for him, his cancer. Although the doctor said he should be in terrible pain and shouldn't be able to do what he's doing. But, for him, it was no problem. Why? Well, because he had taken on the suffering of others, but his own mind in a state of, who knows what, perpetual samadhi, bodhicitta, whatever. So it's like that. Lama Yeshe too, when he died in a California hospital, he just said, he was just giving his students a chance to meet him, massage him, take care of him, never complaining. There was no problem for Lama Yeshe dying, But of course, very sad for his students. But that's why the Lamas come back, he just said. That's why they come back again and again to help us. But of course, they would only come back if we need them and if we have a certain level of, purification. It's like the sun can be benefited from if we open doors and windows. If we refuse to open doors and windows, the sunlight doesn't come in. Or if we open the door a little bit of sunlight will come in. So that's like, if a Lama is reborn and dies young, that's a sign that we don't have the karma for that Lama. That Lama is kind of deathless. That level of being, bodhisattva type. So it's up to our karma, you see. If we have good karma, do a lot of purification now and in the next few weeks, then we create the cause for a very powerful manifestation of the Lama. It's like we've opened the door wide, opened our windows. We get all the benefit of the light and the sunshine and the wind, purifying wind. But if we make a mess and just carry on with our samsaric lives, or just, think, oh, well, the Lama's dead, now it's just eat, drink, and be merry, then maybe we won't have much access to a fully fledged, long-lived reincarnation. So that's what meant by manifestation. It's under the control, you could say, of the Lama. It's not uncontrolled ordinary sickness and death. Lamas of that level don't have ordinary sickness and death. Although, they might catch a cold and manifesting. They catch a cold, okay. Because they have a body, so they are going to catch a cold. They're going to get old and die. And I don't know what the latest is from Kopan, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Rinpoche manifests staying in meditation for a few days, weeks, whatever, giving people time to get their tickets and, get to Nepal for the funeral, which I presume will be in Nepal, because that was his place. He promised the monks and the Sherpas of his region in his last life that he would start a proper school for the children and the monks. That's what he promised. When he was reborn. He was reborn in 1946. So before 1946, that life, he had promised the monks and nuns he would start Mount Everest Center for them. That's what it was called first, the Mount Everest Center. And then it came to Kopan. So that's his main place. That's Rinpoche's heart place. He's a Sherpa, don't forget. He's a rugged Sherpa. And I've seen him almost run up mountains, when I had the great good fortune to do retreat in his near his holy cave, a 3-month retreat many years ago. He springs up the mountain. He's a Sherpa. He was a Sherpa. He could have gone up Everest probably if he'd wanted. That wasn't his life. Taking Westerners' luggage up mountains, he did something else. It's hard to believe, actually, that Rinpoche was around yesterday and not today, in the same form, not around. But it's like very much the picture, the images, the memories, they're so strong. And no doubt if we do good purification, we'll feel his energy very powerfully. So we should do that. If we feel inclined to, we should do a lot of practice. maybe we'll save the practice for a Sunday. We'll do a session Sunday morning when I get back to Delhi. And I would like to, I think now I might as well announce it. I'd like to invite whoever wants to come to my house on the Sunday late afternoon, time to be announced. We can do some prayers there, because Tushita is a little bit quarantine place right now. But people can come to my place. It'll be announced. But that's what I'm thinking. It'd be nice to do. Blessing for my place as well, which I hope to be a kind of more public space with a library and stuff. So that's what I'm thinking. With a little help from my friends. Yeah. My home in Delhi, it's in Hoskas, near Chorminar, aptly labeled Chorminar. So a bunch of thieves live around that place. So rich thieves, not poor ones. So anyway, mustn't malign my neighbors. Yeah, the address will be put out. So yeah, any questions, any comments, feel free. I'm not going to be eating tonight. I'm fine. Tea is keeping me alive.
Nitya had a question in the chat, Kabirji.
Is that right? When was that put up? Ages ago? At the beginning?
No, just straight.
Huh?
She's asking, can you say more about doing purification?
Well, purification is of many kinds. There's traditional kinds like bodhisattva mantra, which is a 100-syllable mantra of a particular Buddha, which is recited 100,000 times, typically, over a period of a month, 3 months, or on a daily basis. You can do some, depending on what the Lama advises. Like I've been advised, luckily, before Rinpoche passed, he advised me to do 1 month bodhisattva retreat this year, which I'll be doing. But one can do prostrations, 100,000 prostrations, and several. I think some people here have done. Tiaji, you've done all that, right? You've done 100,000 prostrations, 100,000 mantras. She's the one who can tell you about all that and what happens when you do it, and how horrifying and wonderful it can be. So that's what we mean by purification. But purification could be anything where you have the motivation. You say, okay, I'm going to do this positive action now as a kind of purification. And meaning that you remember, you try to recall some of the non-virtuous actions one has done in this life, and then extrapolate, and, if you can, and say, well, yeah, I've done other things too in past lives. And the Lamas always say, you should imagine you've done pretty much everything in beginningless past lives, yeah, including killing mother, father, everything. You've done everything in past lives. So now we have to purify all that, because otherwise it can manifest. You see, the result can manifest. Yeah. So that's, in a nutshell, purification. But the two main kinds are, well, the other kind is reciting sutras, especially on emptiness or bodhicitta, but any sutra, anything with that motivation that I'm purifying my mind, I want to purify. And then dedicating at the end that, in the appropriate way. So reciting certain sutras, like reciting Sutra of Golden Light, this can be very purificatory, especially the 4th chapter on purification. That is a whole purification practice in its own right. Chapter 4 of the Sutra of Golden Light, which we have hundreds of copies of at Tushita, by the way. Which, yeah, we should be reciting that also in the next few weeks. We can have some sessions on that. But the main ones, yeah, the prostration to the 35 Buddhas and the 100,000 Bodhisattva mantras practice, which is what I did up in the hills in Rinpoche's cave many years ago. Yeah. You're feeling, Neeraj is feeling sad that I couldn't get the opportunity to meet Lama, I guess, Rinpoche, and learn about Bodhicitta from him. Well, you can still learn from Rinpoche because all these wonderful books and and YouTube videos available. Rinpoche's teachings. He gave amazing teachings, especially in 2020. At the start of COVID, he just stayed put at Kopan Monastery and gave so many teachings. Almost every day there were teachings, amazing teachings, and he's surrounded by teddy bears and stuffed animals, not real animals, teddy bears and stuff. I think he wanted to, I don't know, that was his way of communicating with people who like teddy bears, right? Which is a lot of us. So he gave amazing teachings. So you can still, it's like you can, that's the point, you can feel that Rinpoche is right there with you. There's now amazing quality, right, of media and videos and all. And on YouTube, you can find everything is there. And the teachings are meant for us to practice, you see. So we don't need to feel that the Lama is not there. The Lama is always there, actually. So as soon as you think of the Lama, they're there, right? Because it's to do with the mind. You could have the Lama right in front of you while he was alive, and you could be just distracted with something else. Or right now, like some people think that the Dalai Lama is someone who abuses children. So Dalai Lama is right there. You're there, and you think he's a child abuser. So, you know, it depends on your mind. If for us, Rinpoche is here now, and then his blessings and his example is available to us. So it's up to us. And I don't want to discuss His Holiness issue right now. But just, for me, it shows how the media is the media. Yeah. There's some horrible things have been said. Some people are creating incredibly negative things, what they're saying, because it just aggravates people, doesn't it? And we're very susceptible to suggestion, I think. Very susceptible. Yeah, Tia, yes, a little Nandro, that's the preliminary practice Tia did. During a 3-month bodhisattva group retreat at Tushita Delhi many years ago, Lama Zopa Rinpoche arrived one day and stayed for 5 weeks. Wow. He taught nearly every evening into the wee hours of the morning. Haha, yeah, that was something Rinpoche liked to do. He'll tell, you know, we'd be told the teaching starting 8 p.m., okay, 9 p.m. And Rinpoche might turn up by 11 or 12 p.m., midnight, and then he'll teach. He didn't care that it's nighttime. You know, if one's serious, one stays awake. Rinpoche's zeal was astounding. I didn't miss a single teaching despite retreat commitments and sleep deprivation. Well done. Rinpoche was a big fan of the preliminary practices and long dedication prayers. Good. And if you want to know more about preliminary practices, there is a very good book by Dzongsa Rinpoche called Not for Happiness, with the subtitle, A Guide to the So-Called Preliminary Practices. It's a very good title, because we say preliminary, oh, must be simple. So-called. They're preliminary, you know, doesn't mean they're easy. I'm sure Tia could tell us a lot more about all the little beautiful monsters she met on the way on her purification. All the little names she had for them. Yeah, thanks Minotaji. Thanks for reminding us that Rinpoche is still with us, just in another way. You're going to a Guru Puja at Tushita Dharamsala. Oh, you're in Dharamsala? Very good. Oh, it's online? Yeah? Okay, didn't realize that. So everyone's doing pujas, which is wonderful. And you can join online. Maybe you could share, you have the link? Those who want to keep on praying today, very good. Thank you, Veena.
Yeah, I shared it on a WhatsApp group.
Okay, wonderful. Take care. Yeah, due to all the time zones, there'll be prayers and pujas going on continuously now for quite a while. Thank you, Simarji. Which simmer is this? Is this, because I get confused. 40 years ago simmer, that's an older simmer than the simmer I know. Where are you, simmer? Show your face. Where is he? Maybe he's gone. Oh, there's another whole, one of two. Oh, there's 47 people. Good grief. Sorry, I just had no idea. Simar, can you show who you are, please? Since this is a interactive session, you can show your holy face? No? Okay. Did you show? The one from Delhi. Oi, Sardarji, no. I am the Simar you know. Okay. I've known you 40 years? Good grief, I didn't know you were that old. I knew I was that old. I didn't know you were that old. So look, thank you, everyone. I had no idea there was a page 2 on this, and all these people here. Thank you very much. Kaveri ji is there, goodness me. Sewang Lamo, Harsh, Margot, Jaret, Mollam Wangmo. Very kind of all of you to join in. And we'll have another session. You see, Sunday morning I get back to Delhi, and hopefully we could start the session by, if the train is on time, then by 11:30. 11 will be difficult, but 11:30 should be possible. And if I'm a bit late, we'll have one of the students start something online, and then we'll do more online. And as I said, it would be nice to have a get together, do some prayers at my place on Sunday, late afternoon, evening, if people show any interest. Thanks, Kaveri ji. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. Did you meet Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Kaveri ji? I'm sure you did. You must have. Gabi, last month we helped a bit at Kapan. Right. Right. Ah, Rinpoche wrote on your hat. He liked writing things on rocks and on hats. That's a very mountain yogi, mountain people's thing to do. Writing Om Mani Padme Hum on stones, on rocks. And he wrote on your hat. There's what? There's what? Tell us what he wrote. I think you're, are you able to unmute yourself? Yeah.
There's no real I.
Sorry, I muted you by mistake. Could you, no more what?
Now, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Rinpoche wrote, there's no real I as you have been, and you exist in mere name.
There's no real I because you, what?
Exist as mere name.
As mere name. You exist as mere name.
My English is terrible bad.
That's true. On WhatsApp, all of you are mere names in a rectangle. There's no faces even. Mere name, isn't it? Sanjay ji, you're master of emptiness.
Yeah, so
name.
I can recollect my first meeting with
please do.
Venerable Lama Zopa.
Sanjay ji, yeah, please.
It was in somewhere in Shantiniketan in 1984. And I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how he was. I asked him about this. What the lady was saying about emptiness.
Yes.
And maybe I don't know. He knew that I'm so. I don't know how. Maybe he had a clear mind. He could understand that. Have a lot of questions about emptiness, and it took me a good number of years to understand how we merely exist as label imputed by the mind. So he gave me a book, Echoes of Wildness, that time by Wisdom Publication.
Yes, by his Guru Geshe Rapten. Yes.
Yeah, Geshe Rapten. Yeah, Guru Geshe Rapten. So he was full of happiness, laughter, I mean, you could feel his energy, all the time.
Yeah.
And even,
Yeah.
I met him few months back. I mean, I think last year he came to Delhi, and we had dinner together in one of the restaurants,
Nice.
and
Yes.
we could feel his presence. I'm sure he'll be shortly reincarnating himself
I'm sure.
for the benefit of all of us.
Yes, because people like you and me still a bit serious and sad sometimes, right? So I'm sure he'll be back. You were a very serious student in those days, I remember. Very serious. You
Yes,
remember
very
how
serious.
serious-
I was in college. I would bunk my classes to come to
Yes,
Tushita.
right.
People would go see and movies, and I would go to Tushita. And I'm very happy that changed my life. And ultimately, I mean, those were years of struggle, but ultimately, I'm very, very happy today that at least there are so many paths, and one knows the right path,
Right.
because there are so many subjective truth and subjective philosophies,
Yes.
which will never lead to any liberation.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So I'm heartily, my heart is full of gratitude to the Dharma, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and of course the teachers, because they are the one who are the protector and the and the spread of Dharma.
Hmm. Thank you, Sanjay ji. Sanjay ji is
So,
one of
my
I
wife
hope-
was asking, that I said, I think he's realized that his body's become old, and
Hmm.
no longer giving up. I mean, no longer giving any benefits. So he'll take a new body and again start his journey for the benefit of people. That's how learned people and accomplished people do.
The amazing thing also, Sanjay ji, is that his teachings, there are so many thousands of pages of his teachings that people can benefit from, you see. They are amazing. Some of the transcripts of the Kopan courses, for example, from the early years, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
of course, all of the beautifully edited books that have come out due to the hard work of so many people. So their teachings are all there, What Rinpoche wanted to communicate with us is there. Just like the Buddha said when he died, he told Anand, I've told you everything I need to.
Yeah.
Now you
Yeah.
just have to practice. So even if Rinpoche were never to come back on this earth in a body, he's told us everything he wants to. He hasn't held anything back. From the most basic teaching to the highest yoga tantra, he's taught everything in great detail, By the way, I have to tell people, Sanjay ji here is one of the very kind and long-lasting sponsors of Tushita Delhi. He's been sponsoring the center for many years. So many thanks to you, Sanjay ji. You and your family have always been very generous.
My precious karmas, and I'll do till my last breath.
Thank you, sir.
There are so many other people also, but yeah.
There are some other people, but you are one of the two main people.
I
don't know if dear Ranjit ji is here. Ranjit Walia, he's the other big sponsor for Tushita.
But everything is dependent, because
It is.
if somebody doesn't teach,
Yes. Yeah.
So everything is dependent.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Anything else, folks? Hold on. There's something in the chat. Rinpoche's devotion, to His Holiness. Wow, yeah. So inspiring and powerful. The impermanence of it all really striking for now. Yeah, Rinpoche was one of the lamas whom several other great Rinpoches said was special. They often said somehow Lama Zopa Rinpoche was special because I think he was just so wholehearted, dedicated, so much hard work. I mean, he's taken on, you see, many lamas, they start 3, 4, 5 centers and they have a following online or whatever, and it's great. But Rinpoche took on this responsibility left to him by Lama Yeshe. And now he had the responsibility of more than well over 100 centers, 150 centers worldwide. Now that means, you see, people are constantly getting in touch with their problems, with issues, personal issues, center issues, you name it, and just the routine checking of who should be director here or there, that was all Rinpoche's work. Rinpoche had to be involved in many of these things. quite apart from his personal practice, he had many hours of his personal practice to do. The teachings he had received, he had to do practices, which his own lamas had told him he had to do. And he never shirked on any of these things. I mean, that's why he never had really any time for sleep. He was always practicing or benefiting people in one way or another. I mean, in the early days when we had, me and my friends, we've asked him hundreds of questions, you know, which he would answer painstakingly, you know. So yes, he was incredible energy to benefit. And yeah.
Sorry, Kabirji, I couldn't attend the beginning. Was this sudden or was he a bit sick or?
Well, he was never in very good health. But what happened is he was went in a helicopter to one of the highest regions or higher region of Nepal from Kathmandu, where we have projects, where Rinpoche had projects with the local people and the monastics. And while he was up, and then when he came back down to Kathmandu today, he stopped breathing, you know. He got altitude sickness up there. He had to be brought down to Kathmandu, where he stopped breathing, and they couldn't revive him, despite the efforts of one particular doctor in the hospital. He couldn't be revived, and clinically passed away, but still in meditation, you know, with a subtle mind. But clinically, he's dead. Yeah, he's not going to come back in this body, but he's still in meditation, as far as I know, which is something that high yogis can do. Yeah, so it was in a sense quite sudden. No one was expecting that. We are actually expecting Rinpoche in Delhi for some conference from the 20th to the 22nd or so of this month. But we're not expecting any teachings. That's why we weren't asking him. But he was expected in Delhi for a few days. Yeah, so we didn't think anything was wrong. But I have a feeling he's passed away, as many High Lamas do, as a way of also taking on the obstacles or negative energy of the world and of certain things that are happening right now. Lamas are known to do that. Famous example of the previous Serkong Rinpoche passing away in order to reduce obstacles for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He very suddenly kind of passed away. So this can also be done. You see, great beings who only think about others, their whole priority list is different from ours. Yeah, it's nothing for them to give up their life if they think it's going to help some other great being like Dalai Lama Ji or something. Then they don't have to think twice. I mean, they have to think about their own students, of course, but they measure what is the best thing to do, and then they just do it. It's no problem for them. Rinpoche is not having any problem right now. His mind doesn't have any problems. We have problems because of our burden of karma and our dualistic mind.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else, folks? Very, very gladdened at the support for this session. There's so many people, and I hope all of us get a chance to look at Rinpoche's videos from 2020, and you know, anyone, and then his books. There are many books on many topics, on healing, on the basic path, on thought transformation, transforming happiness, transforming suffering into happiness is one book that was very powerful. How to how to utilize difficult situations in life, which is a very important genre of Mahayana teachings. So Rinpoche was a master of those teachings, gave so many teachings on that, thought transformation. Yeah, I mean, there's so much. So hopefully, but for me, someone like me who, anyway, for me, I just want to carry on Rinpoche's wish for, you know, education, and to make sure that lots of children in India at least get access to a transformative education based on, for example, the 16 guidelines that Rinpoche has been pushing, which we may talk about one session. It would be good, actually. We'll talk about the 16 guidelines, which form the basis of many of Rinpoche's schools now around the world, which we are adopting here in Bodh Gaya, at the school in Bodh Gaya. So, yeah. So you see, Rinpoche's inspiration, his work lives on, yeah, in us, in the students. And that's how it should be. It shouldn't die. And we shouldn't be so lazy that we wait for the Lama to reincarnate. You know, we may be dead by then. We have to carry on the work, isn't it? Thank you, Dario. Thank you. Thanks for your words. We're a little sad, but you help us feeling a little better. Yeah, thank you. Where are you at the moment? Where are you, Dario and Gabi?
We are in Spain, just arrived from Kathmandu, Kabirji.
You're in Spain.
Yeah.
Oh, just arrived from Kathmandu.
Yes, 2 days ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, Rinpoche has so many followers in Spain. So many. Yeah. So I'm sure you'll get together online or somehow and do practices. Okay, well, I think that's good for now. Of course, one could go on, but there are some very virtuous things happening, which you can join later online, whatever. And the main thing we were told, yeah, by Khadro-la, 3 things. Meditate on bodhicitta, compassion. Meditate on impermanence. Impermanence, that's, you know, here we were expecting Rinpoche in Delhi in a few days, you know. Weren't expecting a teaching, we were expecting maybe to say hello or something. You know? And we were very recently seeing pictures of his visit to the high mountains in Nepal. And then, you know, we get this message. So impermanence, which one day will happen to us, as Rinpoche always reminded us, one day it's going to happen to you. And the third thing is to pray strongly that Rinpoche will return and carry on, you know, his work in a fresh, new, healthy body. Yeah.
Kabirji, are we doing the thing with Baba Sahib?
Yeah, we will continue with that program tomorrow. And we may preface it or end it with some prayers as well. Yeah, but we will have that program on Baba Sahib Ambedkar tomorrow. Because, yeah, that's a good point you're making. You see, Rinpoche in the early years, when he was working, had more time to come to Bodh Gaya, he made it very clear to us how much he wanted to help Indian Buddhists, Indian people. Of course, he had worldwide centers to deal with, and his headquarters were in the United States. So he didn't have that much time as he would like, I'm sure, to give to Indian Buddhists. But Rinpoche was always incredibly dedicated to Indian students because, of course, this is where everything started, and the debt to India that Lama Yeshe felt. Of course, Rinpoche felt that as well. So he always wanted, he was encouraging me, I remember many years ago, to make more contacts with the Indian Buddhists, by which he meant, you know, Baba Sahib's followers. So yes, we have to continue that as well, to help, you know, work with everybody. Yeah, Rinpoche would be very happy at that. And that's why he gave extensive teachings in Nasik when he was there those years ago. Yeah. Yeah. So yes, we have a poster ready, which I think Navita ji may put up this evening and again tomorrow on our program. And then we'll be thinking of something for Sunday, what to do. Yeah, so look, thank you all very, very much. I'm used to seeing everybody on one screen, but now I have to go to the other screen because there's a whole bunch of you. So it's very kind, so many of you to join. And I hope you got some inspiration from hearing Rinpoche's words. and people's recollection. Oh, there you are, Tara. Oh, good. Hello, nice to see you. You have Ramana Maharishi on the wall. That's nice. Are you in Tiruvannamalai? Or wherever, anyway.
Yes, that's where I stay. Yeah.
Oh, very lucky. We have a friend here, Rick. Rick is here from Tiruvannamalai.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Who helps the Pragya Vihar school here in Bodh Gaya. We had a meeting today with him. Okay. Yeah. So look, thank you very much, everybody. We'll dedicate that we are never separated from very kind Mahayana gurus who guide us, inspire us, and really help us to make our lives worthwhile in the best way possible, which they say is nothing greater than to, be motivated by bodhicitta and to consider all beings as like one's own child, like the great Vimlakirti says in the Vimlakirti's Nirdesh Sutra to Manjushri. He says, Bodhisattva sees everybody like their only child, so may we be like that and bring great benefit to others, just as Rinpoche would want us to. That's what he wants. He wants us to be joyful in benefiting others. What else would he want? Of course, he knows it's tough. He knows we will suffer on the path, but he wants us to, benefit others, which is the best way of benefiting ourselves. By the way, we benefit. So may that happen. May this little session we had together and all of our combined aspiration and goodness create the causes for Rinpoche to return quickly and to continue to inspire us. May it motivate us to listen and read what Rinpoche has left, the incredible legacy he has left just in this one short lifetime, 77 years. He left so much for us. May we regard that as a great treasure and utilize it to transform our minds, which is the main point, right? So may that happen. And thank you to everybody. May all the people who are helping the centers, who are practicing, we rejoice in that, in their practice, in their help. That is the best way to live one's life. So we rejoice, and we rejoice in everybody participating in these kind of sessions. May everybody be well and happy and have all the causes and conditions to practice the Dharma in this and in future lives. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama have a long and healthy life. All the other great lamas who are with us still, may they have long and healthy lives. May our karma be such that they stay with us for a long time, as long as possible. May we never be dejected. May we always think of benefiting one another. May we always be blessed by waves of joy from the Bodhisattvas and the Buddhas. May those who are sick and ill quickly recover from their sickness, especially Rowena, who is sick at Tushita Delhi. May she quickly recover. May anybody else who is sick or unhealthy or dying, just died, may they be guided to precious human rebirth. We're not including Rinpoche there because Rinpoche is well in control of well, we're praying that he comes back and teaches us. Yeah. He's assured of whatever rebirth he wants. So may His Holiness says, as long as sentient beings remain, as long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, we also remain to remove the misery of the world. And may we always bow down to our spiritual guides through whose kindness we develop. Thank you all very much indeed. Have a good evening, and see some of you tomorrow for our session on Baba Sahib Ambedkar, where we'll also have prayers and so forth. Yeah, take care, everybody. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Kabirji.
Dean Curtin, thank you. I don't know if I know you. Anyway,
Thank you, Kabirji.
whoever I didn't notice, or please apologies if there are any old friends here. We look a bit different from how they look 40 years ago. I don't know. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good night.